for almost any use case we use Tableau, there's a better tool out there for it in some way, but nothing covers that breadth of what Tableau does.
The main question is will Tableau remain relevant in the next 3 to 5 years? And really, there's this augment or replace kind of tension that I think is going to be at the forefront for the next year or two.
Let's face it, Microsoft Excel is probably never going to be replaced. And it's got these AI extensions right there in the flow.
The elephant in the room is or some other metaphor is the cat out of the bag. Is it too late? Because people are building agents with their own tools now, using a variety of models. Some people are even self-hosting their models now. And does the governance need to look like more of a system that would let people to bring their own agent and be very safe and productive?
Let's make sense of this.
Let's make sense.
Sensemakers.
So welcome to another pre-TC video. It's been a year since our last one, and we get to spend some time talking about my favorite piece of software and one of my favorite events of the year. And this year we're joined by a new Actionaut, Stefan Price. Stefan, do you want to introduce yourself?
I definitely would. It's nice to see everybody again. Excited for you to be watching us. My name is Stefan Price, and I am very much like many of you. I made a career at Tableau, data analytics. I spent many years using these tools, and I also worked at Tableau as a solutions engineer on the embedded analytics team. So that means I have a bit of an expertise in the APIs and what to do with them. I'd be happy to contribute my experience. I've been working on integrating Tableau with AI for several months now, so happy to share.
Well, I got to say longer than that, Stefan, because you helped write the LangChain integration over a year ago that kicked off a whole bunch of neat things.
Thank you for reminding me, by the way. I should have brought it up, but that's right. I've contributed a few projects just like that. Tableau LangChain for building agents. It's a good reference if you want to do your own. And Postman collections, all sorts of apps on my GitHub. So very happy to be at it again and sharing more.
And I think the operative word you said was integrating Tableau with AI.
That's right.
Is that not the moment we're in? I mean, last year we were getting ready to go to the conference, Robert and Jonathan, and we made this video and we identified that Tableau as a product and as a company was at a bit of an inflection point, right? It was a really key moment for Tableau, and has a lot changed in the last year. And now I would say it's more of an inflection point for the industry as a whole, right? Not just Tableau, but the entire gambit of traditional BI tools, low code tools, drag and drop tools, business logic stored in XML. I think in the last year, that entire paradigm has come up for question. And so integrating Tableau with AI, Stefan, is, I think, one of the key things on decision makers' minds these days about what am I going to do with my Tableau stack?
It's on everybody's mind right now.
So I'd like to frame this as kind of like this progression of questions that we have about the state of Tableau, the state of AI and data, and ultimately help our audience think about what are they looking for out of the Tableau conference. So last year, the biggest question we had was around Tableau's product direction at a fundamental level, because there was Tableau Next had been rolled out. We didn't know a lot about it. There was also what was called Tableau Core then, is also called Tableau Classic now. So server, cloud, desktop, prep builder.
What were they doing with all of that?
What were they doing all of that? And Tableau's answer was very clearly both and. That Next was serving a set of use cases the Tableau Core and Classic tools are serving an overlapping set of use cases, and Tableau was committed to both. And we heard that both publicly in things like the keynote and the listening session, and then also in private conversations that we got to have at Tableau Conference as well. The leadership was clear on that.
Yep. And now we're at this place where we're surrounded by agents. At least I'm surrounded by people on X and on LinkedIn talking about how we're surrounded by agents, right? And so I'm not sure that the experience on the ground at every institution is so much, successful agent building these days. But nevertheless, the impetus is there, right? And so, yeah, the conversation has really shifted away from like, what is the Tableau product direction, I think, to like, what is the Tableau platform location and where does it fit in this new paradigm?
I think that question of, like, there's a couple of ways I think of it. One is this, what is Tableau for? And that the other one is like having kind of been working with Tableau for a while, there was a while we could think of, okay, we're going to have an analytics platform for our organization. And now we're really not there anymore when that barrier to entry has been lowered so much. And also the point of consumption of the visual, like Tableau is kind of built around this point of consumption being the person clicking on a dashboard or dragging and dropping in Tableau. So they're at a GUI interacting with a visualization. And in the world now, that point of consumption, yeah, there's Tableau Mobile, but there's Slack, there's Teams, there's emails, there's still the static keynotes and things like that are delivered. And that brave new world of agents and everything that they can do.
So here's a thought that I had on that, and you mentioned the word platform. In the early days of Tableau, the excitement was all around the fact that we can all create our own dashboards. We can all build our own analysis and share that with our teams and in different ways around the enterprise. And that was exciting and new and wonderful that I can create my own things. And we're seeing that same kind of thing with AI analysis and AI generated creation in a more open way. We can create code-based tools and in all sorts of wonderful, flexible things. But what's the platform? What generates that way to share that with only a certain group, with row-level security, with different group permissions and things like that? Even the infrastructure part of that becomes an open question with the AI tools that people are getting really excited about. So I'd love to talk about the platform aspect a little bit more.
Yeah, totally. I mean, on the one hand, I, with a single well-written prompt, might be able to put out a React.js dashboard that is fancier and better than any Tableau dashboard I had ever constructed with drag and drop. And it can even have accurate numbers. But then without that platform the governance layer is missing. How do I integrate it with the enterprise architecture and infrastructure? How do I kind of keep it updated and roll it out, maintain the thing? So in a lot of ways, self-service has shifted away from, go to Tableau towards interact with a chatbot. And in some ways, we're seeing the development of these visual data assets shifting to develop with an AI-assisted code agent type of thing. But Tableau does still have this strength of being deeply embedded as the vertical stack of a platform that has such a broad set of capabilities. Nevertheless, I think that over time, the agentic paradigm is going to chip away at that.
I think one piece with that, that I'm seeing more and more is people don't want to take the time to learn Tableau.
Right.
And Tableau historically has been this tool that rewards practice, and you can get better and better at it. But people, because of the pace of business and their work, they don't have the time, they're not given the time to actually spend on it. And the chat interface is right there and acts like a human.
And in my experience, I think people will probably behave in similar ways when they use AI agents. They won't take a deep dive enough to get the output come out as high quality or as quickly as somebody with expertise would, but they also wouldn't understand how things are working. Now, everybody who is good at using Tableau Desktop and Tableau Server today has an advantage in an agent-driven world. They can contribute to an organization no matter what. I have a feeling the way I like to think about having AI succeed is that it's almost like a food chain, and a big agent that's capable of doing many things that is autonomous is like at the top of the food chain. You might have think of like a shark, but you can't have that type of animal unless you have food lower in the food chain for everybody. And that was Tableau's main mission, was to let people organically find those insights and put data in the right shapes to make it food for everybody else. And agents really need that fuel.
And so examples of those inputs into that kind of top of the food chain AI agent or model would be the Tableau Server published data source, the Medallion data architecture, the Snowflake star schema, the fact and dimension modeling, the metadata. As Jonathan likes to say, all of that eat your vegetables stuff that in the past with self-service analytics with drag and drop Tableau tools, maybe wasn't the first priority because there was a rush to just get to the visualization without doing the underlying work. And now you can't really have your predator AA model at the top of the food chain unless you've done the eat your vegetables data foundation stuff underneath.
So then it sounds to me like the space that Tableau can continue to live in, continue to thrive in, and provide value for is that eat your vegetables kind of layer. Because we can generate charts and dashboards in all kinds of wonderful new ways with AI tools. But that eat your vegetables kind of framework still has to come down to governance and certification and sharing models and organizational kinds of things. And so if Tableau can find a way to really tap into that and really support that kind of thing where, you know, we want to use AI, we want to just type a sentence and get a chart and get a dashboard. If they can support that model and still support the sharing and publication and governance things that we've all become used to and embedded with, then I think that's a good way forward for them. So that's one thing that I'm looking to see is, do they come up with a way to say, hey, you know, if you want to use AI to generate business insights, here's your chat bot, here's your Tableau dashboard, and you can use all the things that you're already using.
To tack on to that, I really like that, Robert. I think there's one piece to add to that, which is this, yes, Tableau is a platform, but it's not the center of the analytics universe anymore. Like, we can't be, like, maybe that was an idea we could talk about 10 years ago, but that's not the case now. And particularly with, I think of it more on the visualization side these days of the kinds of things we can build in a few minutes with JavaScript in an AI are amazing. And just things that Tableau wasn't built to do. In a way, it wasn't there, and yet we want to deploy those. and share them out. And like Tableau's had the Hyper API and things like that, so we can get data into the Tableau platform. There's the metadata API and things like that, which could be better as far as managing that that part of the structure of Tableau. But then there's this third piece of the visualizations and things we want to do that aren't native to Tableau. Does Tableau have a place that those can live within Tableau's platform?
Oh, yeah. Well, this speaks to a lot of what's been on my mind for a while. But there's an elephant in the room because we just talked about, hey, what can Tableau do for governance and what should that even look like? But the elephant in the room is or some other metaphor is the cat out of the bag. Is it too late? Because people are building agents with their own tools now using a variety of models. Some people are even self-hosting their models now. And does the governance need to look like more of a system that would let people to bring their own agent and be very safe and productive?
Hi, everyone. I'm interrupting our discussion of Tableau Conference to tell you where you can find the Action Company in and around TC26. First of all, we'll be collectively sharing our own responses during the week on our website, LinkedIn, and YouTube, so be sure to follow us there. Keith Helfrich and I will actually be at the conference, so come look us up. You can connect through LinkedIn or the Tableau Community Slack. And at Action, we're really proud this year to be a sponsor of the Data Plus Women meetup. You can register at the link on the screen and in the description, and you can find us at the meetup on Monday night. For myself, I'll be doing 2 presentations at Tableau Conference this year, and both around the topic of what is Tableau good for. The first is Tableau is your context layer for agentic analytics, and I'll be presenting that with Tableau product manager Joe Constantino. We'll be talking about the current future state of Tableau as a platform for supporting agents and be doing it as a sort of dialogue between what's possible and the present day realities of our data. That's on Tuesday at 2:30 p.m. Then on Wednesday at 10:20 a.m., I'll be presenting Old School Tableau, the reward of a UI in the age of AI. My thesis in this talk is that the skills that we build in navigating the Tableau user interface are still useful for exploratory visual analytics, and I'll be demonstrating various tips and tricks that I still use today with Tableau. And finally, if you want more of our thinking in video form, Keith and I will be recording reaction videos and doing interviews during the conference, particularly after the Tableau keynote, Devs on Stage, and True to the Core. So subscribe to our YouTube channel to stay up to date on those. We'll have a full set of links in the description, and we look forward to seeing you all at TC.
One of the things that I've been posting about recently on LinkedIn is this concept of ontology, right? And I think in the previous paradigm, there was this rush to just get to the viz, and documentation was always this afterthought. You know, just build the dashboard, just hastily put together the data model, whip together a data preparation workflow that's not sustainable. And then you never even got to the documentation. And so in the old paradigm, it was documentation last. And if you're going to stick an AI agent on top of your Snowflake database, it's got to know your business rules. It's got to know your metadata. It's got to know when and where decisions get made. It's got to know thresholds beyond which it shouldn't proceed. And so the new paradigm is a documentation first paradigm. And if you don't have your sole MD and the surrounding architecture of markdown files that describe where and how the agent can and should operate and what it has access to and what that means, then the whole thing is likely to fall apart. And so then there's that bit, which I think is actually going to produce a significant amount of challenge for many organizations, because when you get everybody in the room and you ask them to write it down, what is your business logic? What are your thresholds? What are the bounds? What is the ontology? How does the business function? They're not going to all agree. And so that's a very challenging thing, I think, that is going to be difficult to overcome. And yet the reward for doing it is such that it is a forcing function. It's got to happen. And so then when you get to this question about where does Tableau fit in this, we've got the benefits of being a platform. We've got what Robert described as, we're looking from this conference and from the future of Tableau, are they able to keep up with the times and meet the moment? And really, there's this augment or replace kind of tension that I think is going to be at the forefront for the next year or two.
Keith, I couldn't agree with that assessment anymore. You're so spot on with the fact that we are now in a documentation first paradigm. We have to describe what it is we want, what is the business rules, what is the business logic before we even begin to ask an AI model to produce some insights for us. And the question before us now, when it comes to Tableau and the future of that, is how are they going to integrate that kind of a paradigm towards the future? One thing that I imagine is something that was a huge innovation early on in Tableau was the Show Me button, right? You click Show Me, and you were presented with a number of chart options, right? And it would kind of suggest where to go next. And that's what we do with AI now. It looks at what you're dealing with and gives you some suggestions of where to go next. So could they come up with something where they replace Show Me with a chat interface? I don't know.
I mean, it's got to happen. It's got to happen. Like in my VS Code, when I'm working on our Snowflake database, I've got a code assistant that understands the schema, is telling me where the join went wrong, like 2 levels back, and is actually doing the analysis for me. Exactly. And even the XML tools today, like Miro, for example, has an AI agent that will create the Miro board for me on my behalf. That's XML. Dataiku, a data preparation engine. I can talk to the agent, and it'll create the workflow for me. I'd be very surprised if Tableau doesn't announce something like that at the conference this year.
And likewise, speaking with all of those examples, I can open up Microsoft Excel and use a Microsoft Copilot or a Claude Code extension to analyze my data in spreadsheets. And let's face it, Microsoft Excel is probably never going to be replaced. And it's got these AI extensions right there in the flow to analyze our data wherever we might be working with it. And so Tableau really has to announce something like that, where we can work with AI in the flow when we're dealing with the Tableau data sources that we have inside of that workbook in Tableau desktop. Not necessarily after we publish it to the server, but right there when we're trying to design our dashboards. And it can't be just kind of like, well, we'll help you build this calculation and we'll help you kind of do this little nuance. No, it's got to be fully integrated. Frankly speaking, if they don't come up with something like that, I don't see how they're going to compete.
Yeah. And so in a lot of ways, you've got Tableau now in this position where they can meet the moment if they're able to extend the platform in the way that Excel has extended the platform and continued to remain relevant. Tableau in a lot of organizations is very relevant today. And so there is this place where Tableau can remain relevant if they're able to meet the moment, extend the platform, keep that trusted infrastructure, keep that governance layer, and enhance the platform value as they go. But then on the other hand, you've got the native AI stack, which just says, build me a JavaScript in a single prompt and make it run fast, even though it's fragile.
I think I totally agree with all of that. I think there's one other piece here, which is, I guess it's actually 2 other things here. One of them is with regards to the platform that Tableau offers. because we've all seen a lot of companies come up that have tried to be the Tableau killer, have the better tool. And Tableau is applied to such a broad variety of use cases. For almost any use case we use Tableau, there's a better tool out there for it in some way, but nothing covers that breadth of what Tableau does. And so like one example for me is around concurrency and performance, that as much as we can complain about slow dashboards, Tableau scales in a way that a lot of other tools don't because they didn't have the years of being in production. And then another place of that years in production is that there are thousands, tens, hundreds of thousands of workbooks and dashboards and data sources and so on, prep flows in organizations that are all semi-structured XML data. And that for me is like one of the things that was really exciting last year with VizQL Data Service and then the LangChain work that Stefan presented at. Like my client was super excited when he saw that presentation at TC and just the possibilities of that. And we're still working with that today. And now there's the Tableau MCP. How much, for me, there's a question of how much more is Tableau going to do to let us take advantage of what's been done? Like, could we derive those business rules that the AIs need out of the workbooks that are in place, for example? Because they've already got the thresholds in them. They've already got the human readable names for things and all of that.
Very good point. To what extent is all of this going to be opened up? And a really good anchor to that conversation is the Tableau MCP. It's compatible with any agent. You can bring your own. And so I might be a little bit contrarian here to what we were just talking about. Like, can Tableau create an experience where you're authoring similar to some of these other tools? But I think even these other tools are going to encounter the following. And this is a concept that's very popular or very strong in AI. It's called the bitter lesson. And the bitter lesson basically says the more simple your setup is for an AI to use, you're going to see much better results. And we just went through a big transition lately where people were building individual tools like the Tableau MCP. It's a server with a bunch of tools to give to an agent. And now we're seeing agents that are just running shell commands in Bash and achieving a lot of the same results. So the simpler you get and the more power that agent has to take off in any direction, turns out that's been the winning combo.
Yep. And we're back to the shell prompt after decades of building stacks and layers on top of it. And so, Jonathan, to your point that you made that the documentation first is already there because it's already out there in these Tableau workbooks, I would take issue with that, because while it is out there and reasonably, you could go do archaeology to scrape it out of the XML. In my experience, it's extremely fragmented. It's extremely inconsistent. You've got the sprawl problem because self-service analytics had, everybody building a new dashboard in a new direction that was a quasi-duplicate of the one next door. And the calculations aren't consistent, and the business logic is there, but it's not the same as in the dashboard next door. And there's all of this effort required to simplify and to get from the current state where most organizations are, where their ontology is locked up in myriad fragmented XML traps, to the simple, functional, actual, clear Markdown file that represents in a single place how is this decision made.
So for me, I agree Tableau is not the only place, and it is fragmented. And at the same time, like one of the things that I think shows that Tableau agrees with that is in February, they published the XSD for the Tableau workbook. So this is the XML specification file for how a Tableau workbook is put together. And I think it's a really reasonable expectation they're going to do that for published data sources as well. So this was always something that if we wanted to do that, we had to kind of individually deduce what's going on with the workbooks. So that's one part of this for me, that Tableau is working to make that easier. The other piece for me is LLMs are, in a lot of ways, text summarization tools. And what is a Tableau workbook but a bunch of text? And so in that way, several years ago, if we wanted to do that archaeology, it was a lot more manual labor than it is now with the tools that we have. So it's not the only way, but it is a way.
So I want to jump in on the Tableau MCP discussion. Because right now, that whole design is about finding and producing and navigating content that's already there. And I think that what people want is an MCP that helps create something new. And so what I'm looking for from this conference is an MCP that helps us create something new. What is that new workbook? What is that new dashboard? And maybe it's based on something that is a data source that we already have published and governed and certified and all of those kinds of things. I want to see an MCP AI integration that's not after the fact, that's actually a foundation for creation. So I think that if Tableau and Salesforce can produce something like that in the AI space with their MCP service or some other kind of protocol, I mean, it doesn't have to be MCP, frankly. We're in a very Wild West and open area of innovation. Whatever it happens to be, I think that's what people are looking for is, how do I make something new? How do I create and innovate, not just navigate what's already existing?
And the other part for me is also with that goes to the deployment part. So Tableau last year, in Devs on Stage, they announced the authoring extensions API. So are we seeing, it's now been a year, are we going to see that being put into practice this year after the very, 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 very early alpha demo last year? Are they doing that? And then how, I see a whole way as people are using Tableau now through the MCPs, they're creating new data products out of it. That it might be a little report, it might be a one-liner, it might be a whole viz that they're using to create things. How can they get to deployment of that? So coming back to the platform in a way with that, and the other part with that is that's not necessarily a person creating that. That could also be the agent creating that too.
Coming back to the platform conversation, one of the things that you mentioned, Jonathan, in preparing for this conversation is the importance of those API endpoints. It's almost guaranteed that it's not going to be a person doing that creation, that it's not going to be a person creating something new. And so for every new feature that's announced in the conference, is there a corresponding API endpoint that I can use to get to server, to get to cloud, to get to next, to get to desktop, to articulate those same mechanisms with a machine after I've done my business logic archaeology and I want to create something new and I'm running a school of agents? Can I do that at scale, or am I going to have to revert back to my fingers on the keyboard?
You know, I do have a way to summarize. This is my take for 2026. If you're a decision maker, especially, Tableau is so valuable. It's a gold mine. You need to also think about the existential decision for your organization. Are you going to develop AI skills internally? Then you need a way to take advantage of new features Tableau will be building, but also take all of that useful data and give it to agents and make it as efficient as Keith described. So you need people like us to help you out. These are the kind of topics that we're thinking about all the time.
Yeah. I mean, to me, it's like the main question going into San Diego. You know, clearly, Jonathan, you mentioned that Tableau is no longer the center of the data universe. right? And I was thinking this morning about just the conference in San Diego. It's no longer the MGM Grand, right?
Mm-hmm.
The main question is will Tableau remain relevant in the next 3 to 5 years? What is their posturing and positioning in order to do that? Definitely, there's a chipping away at the platform strength that they have, because I can just prompt to a JavaScript, but I don't have anywhere to deploy it. And so, in my view, the kind of augment or replace question is going to be very prominent in decision makers' minds over the coming years. And it's probably also not going to be binary. It won't be just a one and done, okay, we're wholesale just replacing Tableau or wholesale deciding to enhance, but rather you're going to have independent business units experimenting, a lot of experimentation happening. Let's start with this specific solution, with this specific data source, see what we can do on either side. And over the coming few years, each decision maker is going to go one path or the other, augment or replace.
I'll add one thought to that, Keith, is that it's very common to get into the sunk cost fallacy in that we can't replace this thing because we've sunk so much time and effort into that. And whether that's a fallacy or not, the fact is that people have poured a lot of time and energy and investment into developing Tableau data sources, Tableau dashboards, and without a good reason to get rid of that, why would we, right? And so we've built up a lot of value over a lot of time in developing these things that are governed and certified and agreed upon and look great and work well for our organization. Can we keep that value going forward and just take the next step?
That's the question of the moment. That really is the question of the moment. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I think another piece of this for me is around cost of delivery, that a well-tuned SQL query and the dashboard that supports it, that's answering a business question for somebody, is going to be faster than typing into a chatbot that has to explore the context layer of the organization and figure out the query to write and then write the query and then so on and so on. So that, and at the same time, there's that exploratory layer that we need. And where AI is enabling so much new exploration and creativity, how well does Tableau support that? Is Tableau recognizing they need, to me, there's this question, is Tableau recognizing they need to be in this space of working with us and not just delivering a GUI for us to do things?
Yep. So you've got speed and flexibility with the AI native approach, slow stability with the Tableau platform approach, an intrinsic tension happening there between those two. The real question then is coming out of TC26. I'll look forward to our post-conference video. I think this is going to be a real test. Is Tableau going to meet the moment? What's the depth of their AI integration? How open are they making the platform? They've really kind of vocalized a commitment to platform openness over the past few years. Are they following through with that? And what is their vision given the paradigm shifts that we have? And to me, also, the other thing that's really on my mind is to what extent have they actually followed through on the things that were announced last year? To what extent are they actually able to deliver? Because there's no doubt about it, big money, big effort is being thrown at the competition side of the fence. And so are they just able to execute and keep up? Okay, well, this has been a great conversation, guys. Thanks for joining us. We're really glad to have you here, Stefan. Jonathan and I will be at the conference this year. Jonathan has a couple of speaker slots. It'd be great to talk to you if you'd like to come visit. And I'm really looking forward to the post-conference video where we get together to digest all of this and actually discern what's our take on what they've announced.
Let's make sense of this.
Let's make sense.
Sensemakers.